Welcome to Archicad in Minutes. In today's lesson, we'll look at beam tool. Recalling back, we talk about story settings, we talk about wall settings, slab settings, and column settings. So today we are going to discuss about beam tool settings. So coming to our notification box, we have the beam tool here. You click and then we have our beam default settings. In beam default settings, we have the beam itself, dealing with the positioning, end cut and reference axis. We have segments, we have its behavior in floor plan and section, structural analytical parameters, and then we have classification and properties. So let's dive in. By default, beam is a horizontal structural element. So here in this dimension, we have the depth of the beam, which is here, and then we have the width of the beam, which is this figure. So now, for example, if we are dealing with a beam that is 450, so we click here, 450 mm, and then the width we are going to change it to 230 mm. If you notice, this one change, it increased in size. So we have a 450 beam, that's the depth, and then the width is 230. Then coming to positioning. In positioning, it's showing us that our current story settings is first floor. So if you want to draw your beam to carry, for example, to carry your first floor slab, you have to draw it on your ground floor. So now it's showing us that we are at ground floor. So at this point, there is no offset from this level. There is no offset from this level. It's at 0. So I have to relate it to my level. So if my level, my headroom from ground floor to first floor is, for example, 3450, so I have to make sure that this is 3450, because in beam, it captures the top of the beam, not the bottom. So we can check Control+7, and then we have it at 3450. So we'll come back here and make this one 3450. So the beam now is going to be, the top of the beam is going to be same level with our first floor level, but it's going to show dotted on our ground floor. And then this, it indicates whether the beam is at a slope or is horizontal. So in this case, we are going to click horizontal. And this one, if you want your beam to be curved, like in this one, if you notice it, it is curved. So we are going to make it to be straight. So in straight, we click on this. So if you look at to project 0, it's indicating to you that it's 3,900 millimeter. So that is from our reference 0. So this one is showing whether it's going to be straight 90 degrees or it's chamfered. If we click on this, and then for example, we have it at 45, you will notice that our beam got chamfered. So we can make it 90, or we click on this, and then this other side, we can have it 90, or we can make it 50 degrees. So the other side has been chamfered. So we don't have business with this, so we are going to make it to be 90 degrees. So coming down to segment. So in segment, this is where you give it the building material. So is it generic structural? Are you going to make it reinforced concrete? Or are you going to make it to be a timber material? Or are you going to make it to be steel? So it is here that you are going to change the property. So in this case, we are going to click on the reinforced concrete structure. And then if you look at it, we have our 450 by 230. And then this, it depends whether you are using a composite material or not. If you are not using composite material, you check on this. If you look at it, it has by the side, if you look at it, it has one side that is a bit more bluish. So when you check it and then you change the color, if it is paint, you come down to paint and change it. So in this case, I don't want to change. And then here too, if you want the beam to be circular, you click here, or if you want the beam to be a still eye section. So if it is still, we'll come down to this, and then we have different type. A composite. It's a composite beam now. So I can click this one, it's an eye section. I can click this, it's a square. So in this case, we are going to make it a solid reinforced concrete. So this one is the behavior in floor plan. So in floor plan, we are going to have it, is it all relevant stories or home story? If you want to see it only on home story, you click this, or home story and one story up, or home story and one story down, or all stories. So the beam will show. So it depends how you want to visualize that beam. If you could remember, we discussed this one while we are discussing in wall tool. So how do you control those elements? How do you want to see them? Do you want to see them in all the floors or in only home story only? And then these are pen sets. This one, if you want to make it to be colored, as in the case of column that we did, you click on both and then you give it a color that you want. But by default, we make it to be dotted like this. Structural analytical model. Under here, we can change it to load bearing, non-load bearing, undefined. So in this case, we are going to make it to be load bearing element. So in which automatically it changed at this point. So our beams, is it exterior or interior? So if you define this one, it will help you in for example, you are trying to apply some weatherproofing for exposed beam. So you can click on this, so it will give you that quantity that you want for the interior beams and for the exterior beams. So now let's go to our work environment. So after we do all those settings, we have our beam, and let's click on the beam. So if you could remember, we changed this beam, so our measurement has changed. So let's come back here and make it 450, and then make this one to be 230. So now our beam at ground floor level is showing dotted. Let's go to one of the elevation, and then you see our beam is at this point. For example, assuming at this point I make it to be 3,300 millimeter. So it means that it's not anchored to this, to the slab. So make sure that you back check what do you have for your story settings, so that you will not make mistake and draw multiple beams at the end of the day. So this one, now we have this beam. So let's go back to our floor plan and let's try to create another beam. We are duplicating a beam. To duplicate a beam, you can come down to this, move, drag a copy, and then we have this. So let's just change this one from here. Let's make it to be 600 beam. And let's go to our elevation. And then if you look at it, we click on our tape, and then we measure. We have 450 here, and then we'll go back to our tape. We click here, and then we have 600. So checking it in 3D, we have our beam. And with this kind of beam, you can even have composite beams. Let's have another example. Structural. Let's come with plaster. Is it generic? So let's click on this, and then we have with plaster. So we can modify this to get the variety that we want. For example, if we are dealing with cantilever beams, so we may need plaster this side, the other side, and the bottom side. So with beam, you can achieve all those that. Thank you. This is Archicad in minutes.